Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome all of you for today's reading session. Let us begin with prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे विश्व गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. Reading from Sri Ishopanishad by His Divine Grace Vishwaguru Abhay Charanarvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Mantra 2. Kurvan eveha karmani jijivisheshatam samaha evam tvayi nanyatetosti na karma lipyate nare. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation: one may aspire to live for hundreds of years if he continuously goes on working in that way, for that sort of work will not bind him to the law of karma. There is no alternative to this way for man. So we had discussed this mantra too. Yesterday we had discussed some points like the what is karma, akarma, vikarma, and how to escape the karma bandhana, the bondage to work. If we work with the consciousness that Krishna is the proprietor, Krishna is the enjoyer, I am just his servant, then we render service to him, all our activities are rendered for his pleasure, then that is called akarma. This we had seen yesterday. And by performing akarma, one can become free from the reactions of one's activities. So Ishopanishad is giving us this very interesting perspective about how to work. Ishopanishad is not saying you should stop working, but you should work with the right consciousness. Not We should not have the proprietorship mentality. We should have the servant mentality. Lord is my provider, Lord is my master, Lord is the proprietor of everything. In that consciousness, if we work, then even if you live for hundreds of years in this material world, you will not get bound by the karma bandhana. And Srila Prabhupada also explained, quoting from Bhagavad Gita in the purport, we saw that. So Krishna also says the very same thing in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, even for a moment you cannot live without doing any work. Therefore, better you work for satisfying the Supreme Lord. If you work in that way, then every action of yours will become yajna, and you will escape the karma bandhana. This is also called as naishkarmya. We had seen this. Naishkarmya means activities which do not bind us to this material existence. So naishkarmya means to work in such a way, intelligently, you work in such a way that you don't get influenced by the three modes of material nature. You transcend the three modes of material nature and you escape the cycle of birth and death. So this requires intelligence. One has to apply one's intelligence to understand how to work in such a way that I don't get bound by the laws of karma. And that is why Krishna called this as Buddhi Yoga in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So, acting for the pleasure of Krishna with the right consciousness that the Supreme Lord is the proprietor, I am his servant. In this way, acting in this consciousness is called Naishkarmya or Akarma, and This is devotional service. Now let's continue to read the second half of this purport, purport by Srila Prabhupada. Factually, no one has to do anything more than render devotional service to the Lord. However, in the lower stages of life, one cannot immediately adopt the activities of devotional service, nor can one completely stop fruitive work. A conditioned soul is accustomed to working for sense gratification for his own selfish interest, immediate or extended. An ordinary man works for his own sense enjoyment, and when this principle of sense enjoyment is extended to include his society, nation, or humanity in general, it assumes various attractive names such as altruism, socialism, communism, nationalism, and humanitarianism. These isms are certainly very attractive forms of karma bandhana or karmic bondage, but the Vedic instruction of Sri Ishopanishad is that if one actually wants to live for one of the above isms, he should make them God centered. There is no harm in becoming a family man or an altruist, a socialist, a communist, a nationalist, or a humanitarian, provided that one executes his activities in relation with Isha Vasya, the God centered conception. So here Prabhupada is saying, factually, all that we have to do is render devotional service to Krishna, as we have discussed. We don't have to do anything else. Simply, we have to render devotional service to Krishna. Every activity, when it is performed for the sole pleasure of Krishna, is an act of devotional service. Just like Arjuna fought on the battlefield of Kurukshetra for the pleasure of Krishna, therefore his fighting, his strategizing, war techniques, his usage of different kinds of weapons, all of these are actually bhakti activities because they were done for the pleasure of Krishna, for fulfilling the mission of Krishna. So therefore, every activity, when it is done, we have to do it for the pleasure of Krishna. We don't have to do any other activity apart from bhakti activities. So this is the perfection of human life. If we can do all activities in connection with Krishna, then that is the perfection of our existence. But if somebody cannot take up this process of bhakti yoga directly, then what should be done? Generally, here Prabhupada is explaining, every person in this world works for sense gratification, either personal sense gratification or extended sense gratification. Personal sense gratification is called ahankara, working with ahankara conception, and extended sense gratification is called mamakara. This aham and mama. Aham means I, my body, my sense pleasures. Mama means my people, my community, my country, like that. That is extended sense gratification. So both, either a person works for personal sense gratification or he works for extended sense gratification. This, in the current conditioned state, everybody works like that. So Prabhupada says all of these are actually simply going to bind a person. These things will bind a person. So there are so many conceptions that people have come up with as far as the extended sense gratification is concerned. For example, altruism, socialism, communism, nationalism, humanitarianism. These are all different isms, philosophies that people have come up with. For example, socialism means what? The public property belongs to the public. No single person can own it. It has to be used by the government for the welfare of people in this country. That is the meaning of socialism. No one can, that means everybody has to be given fair chances to make progress. Economic equality, social equality. So people talk about this. Then communism. Communism Also means it is opposite of capitalism, as we have discussed before also. So the state is the state is the owner of all the natural resources, and no single person can have a concentration of wealth with him. That is communist idea. Nationalism, oh, I belong to this country. This country has given me so much. What I have given back to the country, I should have a nationalistic idea. I should be patriotic towards the country. These are nationalistic ideas. Then humanitarianism. Oh, we are all human beings. We should have, we should help each other when they are in need. On humanity grounds, we should support each other. We should help each other, help the poor, help the needy. Right? Philanthropic activities. Philanthropic activities. Just like we have many corporates doing corporate social responsibility. Oh, now the roads are not good. Let us go and set up the roads. Oh, the roads are dirty. Let us go and clean. So these are all humanitarian works. Let us have public toilets. Let us have hospitals more and more. Let us help the poor and needy. These are all humanitarianism activities. Altruism means the sense that I should help everybody. Everybody should be given help. No one should be denied any help. Right? So these are all different isms. These are all very good. But then, if it is not God centric, all of these so called isms will simply create karma bandhana. It will simply create bondage. It will keep us forever in the cycle of birth and death. So Prabhupada is saying there is no harm in doing all of these things. You can be an altruist, you can be a socialist, communist, nationalist, humanitarian, you can be a family man, but then you should do all these activities with the Ishavasya conception, in a God centered conception. Then you can become free from karma bandhana. Example for this is given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. We see in the Bhagavatam 5th canto, the history of Maharaj Bharat is being described. Maharaj Bharat, he was a great devotee of the Lord, and in his prime youthful years, he gave up his family, his royal comforts, his kingdom, everything. He gave up, went to the forest to perform tapasya for spiritually advancing. But there, he became compassionate towards a baby deer, so much so that he forgot his spiritual goal, the purpose for which he had renounced his kingdom, his wealth, his family members, everything. Why he had come to the forest, he forgot that. He started ignoring, neglecting his spiritual activities. So at the time of death, he was remembering the baby deer, and he gave up his body. Because of this, he was obliged to take birth as a deer in the next life. Now, here is an example. It's not that Bhagavatam is not telling you should not be compassionate towards animals or other creatures. Yeah, you can help them, but becoming attached to them at the cost of losing our God consciousness, this is not a very intelligent thing to do. Yeah. So that is what Bhagavatam is trying to tell us. So you can be a, you're humanitarian, you can be an animal lover, you can be a nationalist, you can be all of these things, but all of these must be executed in a God-centered manner. So we should not forget that our primary goal in life is not to become a humanitarian, not to become a communist or a socialist. These are all not our primary goals of life. Primary goal is to develop Krishna consciousness. Primary goal is to become a devotee. Primary goal is to make sure that we end our cycle of birth and death and go back to Krishna. That is our primary goal. So all the other activities must be subservient to this primary goal. Then we can escape karma bandhana. Otherwise, the so-called philanthropists, so called humanitarians, nationalists, without God consciousness, they're actually preparing for repeated birth and death. So, this is what the Ishopanishad is saying. The Ishavasya conception is very, very important. Everything belongs to Krishna. I should use everything in Krishna's service. Even if I want to do philanthropic activities, I should do in such a way that I become closer to Krishna. For example, I want to donate a lot of money. So let me donate money for the spreading of Krishna consciousness. Let me donate money for prasadam distribution. I want to give poor people food. Yes, there is no harm, we can give, but you prepare food, offer to Krishna, distribute prasadam. Ordinary food, if you distribute, it will only feed their stomach, it will only satisfy their material hunger. And but it also creates punya karma balance, which will make you take birth again in the material world. Instead of that, if we distribute Krishna prasadam, not only the people who eat Krishna prasadam, not only their material hunger is satisfied, their spiritual hunger also is satisfied because they come in touch with Krishna through the prasadam. At the same time, since it is done in connection with Krishna, there is no karma bandhana, there is no punya karma balance which will accrue, which will come out of that activity. So it will lead to freedom from bondage. So therefore, doing all activities in connection with Krishna is called as Ishavasya, or God-centered conception of living. This is the very important point that Srila Prabhupada explains here. Let's continue to read. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 40, Lord Krishna states that God-centered activities are so valuable that just a few of them can save a person from the greatest danger. The greatest danger of life is the danger of gliding down again into the evolutionary cycle of birth and death among the 8,400,000 species. If somehow or other a man misses the spiritual opportunity afforded by his human form of life and falls down again into the evolutionary cycle, he must be considered most unfortunate. Due to his defective senses, a foolish man cannot see that this is happening. Consequently, Sri Ishopanishad advises us to exert our energy in the spirit of Ishavasya. Being so engaged, we may wish to live for many, many years, otherwise, a long life in itself has no value. A tree lives for hundreds and hundreds of years, but there is no point in living a long time like trees, or breathing like bellows, or begetting children like hogs and dogs, or eating like camels. A humble, God centered life is more valuable than a colossal hoax of a life dedicated to godless altruism or socialism. Very powerful statements of Srila Prabhupada here. So, Prabhupada is saying, quoting from Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 verse 40, Swalpamapi yasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Even a slight endeavor in serving Krishna in God-centered activities can save a person from the greatest kind of danger. What is the greatest danger for life? The greatest danger of life is, even after getting human form of life, if one, after getting human form of life, one glides down again into the cycle of birth and death and keeps rotating in different species of life, that is the greatest danger for a person. So, by engaging in devotional service, even if one has not attained perfection in devotional service, whatever little endeavors he or she may put in devotional service can save a person from gliding down again into the evolutionary cycle of birth and death, into lower species of life. This is a very important point. Krishna says this again in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, that even if one does not attain perfection, in one lifetime, next life he will be. This is in the sixth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, even if one could not attain perfection in devotional service in one lifetime, if he sincerely endeavors, little efforts if he puts in serving Krishna, at least he will get human life in the next body, in the next life. He will get a human body so that he can continue to progress spiritually from where he left off in the past life. Therefore, devotional service, devotional activities are very, very high value activities. We can never compare devotional service to any other kind of material activities, however great they may seem. Generally, we may get carried away. Oh, such and such a businessman, for the sake of you know helping people, he has donated millions and trillions of dollars. Yes, it's a very nice activity. He is very gracious enough to give his hard-earned money for helping people, but that activity still keeps him in the karma bandhana, in the cycle of birth and death. It does not ensure the giver of such philanthropic donations freedom from cycle of birth and death. On the other hand, if one engages in devotional service or helps somebody to engage in devotional service in one or the other way, such activity can free both the giver and the receiver from illusion and from the cycle of birth and death. So that's the power of devotional service. That is why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, whatever you do it in connection with me. In the ninth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that whatever you do it in connection with me. Yad karoshi yad ashnasi yad juhosi dadasi yad tapasyasi kaunteya tad kurushva madarpanam. Krishna says in the ninth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, whatever you do, whatever you give away, whatever tapasya you do, whatever charity you do, whatever you eat, everything you should do it as an offering unto me. This is called Ishavasya conception. Everything, being conscious of Krishna in every activity. Krishna personally advises Arjuna. He says, you think of me and fight. Ma manusmara yudhyacha. Yudhyacha, yuddha you have to do, Arjuna, because you're a kshatriya. You don't have to give up your yuddha. But while doing yuddha, be conscious of me. Ma manusmara, constantly remember me and do your yuddha, do your fight. So in this way, we have to engage. We have to engage in Krishna-related activities. Or in other words, we should intelligently, under proper guidance, we should do all activities in connection with Krishna, so that all the people involved are benefited spiritually, eternally. Now, another important thing that Srila Prabhupada mentions here is if we engage in the spirit of Ishavasya, Krishna consciousness, then we may wish to live for many, many years. There is no problem. Otherwise, a long life in itself has no value. So, as we discussed yesterday also, the quality of life is more important than the duration of life. Everybody says, I want to live for long duration of life. What is the use if there is no proper quality life which is lived? So Prabhupada gives the example of a tree. There are so many huge trees which live for hundreds and hundreds of years. But what is the use of such long duration of life simply entangled in material conception? There is no use. So therefore, a moment of God conscious life is more valuable than hundreds of years of godless, altruistic, so-called humanitarian life. So therefore, this point has to be understood properly. Let us continue to read. When altruistic activities are executed in the spirit of Sri Ishopanishad, they become a form of karma yoga. Such activities are recommended in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verses 5 to 9. For they guarantee their executor protection from the danger of sliding down into the evolutionary process of birth and death. Even though such God-centered activities may be half finished, they are still good for the executor because they will guarantee him a human form in his next birth. In this way, one can have another chance to improve his position on the path of liberation. How one can execute God centered activities is elaborately explained in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami. We have rendered this book into English as The Nectar of Devotion. We recommend this valuable book to all who are interested in performing their activities in the spirit of Sri Ishopanishad. So Prabhupada is again saying you can do altruistic activities, you want to help people, you can help them, but help them such that they come closer to Krishna. Actually, the best philanthropic activity, the best social welfare activity is to help people get connected with Krishna. This is the best welfare activity. Because if, even though one may get material help, but what is the use if he is still stuck in the cycle of birth and death? See, many times government with very good intentions, government comes up with some new schemes for welfare of the people. For example, in the United States, long back, I think even now it is there, single mothers were given special allowances by the government every month. That means the government will pay women who are single mothers. That means they don't have a husband. They are living alone with their child. They have to bring up the child and take care of the child's growth, responsibilities, and all that. So the government used to, now also the government gives some money for such single women, but people started misusing this. So because they are not spiritually educated, so people thought, oh, anyway, government is paying us. So they started having relationships with people, without any restriction. Anyway, if I give birth to a baby, government will take care of it. So I don't have to worry. So as a result of this, illicit sex is increasing in the society. This is one of the ways. Long back I read about this. That means the government's intention is to help out the mothers who are alone trying to raise their children singly without any help. But how this scheme of the government is being misused by the people. That means before you actually even give help to people, it's important to educate them spiritually about the purpose of human life itself. This education is lacking currently in the human society. People are talking about big scientific theories, how to go to Mars, how to search for extraterrestrial intelligence in the universe. Big things they talk about. But there is no university in the world which is teaching people about the purpose of human life. No university is educating people that you're not the body, your spirit, soul. You're right now stuck in the cycle of birth and death. Your prime goal should be how to get out of this ignorance, how to get out of this cycle of birth and death. Unfortunately, no such spiritual education is being imparted to people. Therefore, real philanthropic activity, real social welfare activity is being carried out by the Krishna consciousness movement started by Srila Prabhupada, because in this movement, anyone who comes in touch with, they are given this very important knowledge about who they are, what is their purpose in life, what they should be doing in their life. So these are all the important things that Srila Prabhupada's Krishna consciousness movement is trying to educate people, and this is actually the real philanthropic activity, the real social welfare activity. So Srila Prabhupada is concluding this purport by saying that if anyone is interested to perform their activities in the spirit of Sri Ishopanishad, as discussed here, then they should better read this book called The Nectar of Devotion, because this book, which is originally authored in Sanskrit by Srila Rupa Goswami under the direct guidance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this book describes elaborately how to execute God-conscious activities, God-centered activities. In other words, how to execute devotional service All the details are described in Nectar of Devotion. In fact, Srila Prabhupada said, Nectar of Devotion is the law book for all the devotees who are practicing Krishna consciousness. Everything that we do in Krishna consciousness is as per the instructions given in Nectar of Devotion. And in this book, Nectar of Devotion, Srila Rupa Goswami has quoted from various authoritative scriptures. On the basis of scriptural authority, Srila Rupa Goswami explains every aspect of devotional service. For example, Ekadashi. What is Ekadashi? Why to perform Ekadashi? What is the benefit of performing Ekadashi? How to perform Ekadashi? All these details are explained. Or deity worship, the different details about deity worship. Chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, why, how, when, and all these details, everything very authoritatively from various scriptures. Rupa Goswami has quoted evidences and presented. So it's very authoritative book, and so Srila Prabhupada says we have rendered it into English as Nectar of Devotion. So you must read and take advantage of this knowledge. So Srila Prabhupada is saying that one must be interested not only to know that we have to do God-centered activities, but we must also be interested to get ourselves educated properly how to execute Krishna consciousness. And for that purpose, Prabhupada has painstakingly written so many books, and all of us must take advantage of his books, read and scrutinizingly read and discuss with others so that you get more clarity about the concepts that Srila Prabhupada presents in his books. With this, we come to the end of today's session. Thank you very much for joining, giving your valuable time. We shall meet again in the next session. Shri Ishopanishad ki jai, Vishwa Guru
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare
Jai.
Krishna.